With nothing but an old guitar, Eric Clapton turned loneliness into melody, and in doing so, he conquered the world. People call him a guitar god, capable of silencing an entire hall with a single lingering note. But that note didn't come from technique. It came from the loneliness of a boy who grew up in silence, abandoned by his own parents. And it was that same man who would later kneel before his son's grave and ask, "Will I see you in heaven?" Clapton once made millions cry with tears in heaven, only to later spark outrage with controversial remarks, personal downfalls, and a decades-long struggle with addiction. Yet, he rose again to become one of the wealthiest musicians in the world. With a fortune exceeding $450 million, multi-million-dollar Caribbean mansions, a private yacht, and one-of-a-kind Ferrari supercars, Clapton lives like royalty, but carries scars no one can see. Step into the story of Eric Clapton, a legend who embodies both angel and demon, and see how he overcame it all. England, 1945. The fires of war had just died down, but their scars still lingered on every rooftop, every road. In a small village called Ripley, in the Surrey countryside, a baby's cry pierced the silence. Eric Clapton was born. No stage lights, no applause. Just a modest house where a child would grow up surrounded by secrets and a silence that stretched across his entire childhood. Eric's mother, Patricia, was only 16 when she gave birth to him. His father, Canadian soldier Edward Fryer, left before Eric ever saw his face. The baby was handed over to his grandparents, Rose and Jack Clapton, to be raised. But there was something no one told him. They said Patricia was his sister, not his mother. And for 9 years, the boy lived inside a story that wasn't real. Until the day the truth slipped out. One rainy afternoon, he overheard his grandparents talking. He stood frozen in the corner, gripping the edge of the table, feeling his world shatter into pieces. "I felt like the whole world collapsed," he later recalled. "Everything I thought I knew about myself was a lie." The family wasn't wealthy, but they weren't starving either. Jack, his grandfather, was a bricklayer. Rose held everything together at home. They loved Eric in the simplest of ways. But love isn't always enough to heal. Eric grew up in silence. He often wandered alone down village roads, hearing other kids call Mom, Dad, and wondering, where do I belong? He wasn't the kind of child to cry easily or laugh loudly. But he listened, deeply, intensely, as if the old radio was the only thing that could help him understand himself. Music became his first refuge. The raw, aching blues from America, distant yet familiar, flowed from that old radio, weaving an invisible thread between Eric and a world far beyond his small village. No one in his family played music, yet he was drawn to those sorrowful notes as if they were his own. In those days, Eric's life felt like a song without lyrics, without rhythm, just a string of melancholy notes. But then, at 13, a small gift changed everything. An acoustic guitar, cheap, with stiff strings, hard to play. But to Eric, it was treasure. He sat in the corner of his room, the dim glow of an oil lamp casting shadows on the scratched wooden body of the guitar. The first notes he played were clumsy, offbeat, but to him, they felt like a calling from another world. A world where he could finally be himself. Self-taught, he practiced until his fingers blistered. There was no teacher, No guide, just him, the guitar, and the rough echoes bouncing off the walls of his tiny room. The sounds were awkward at first, but he listened, adjusted, persisted. And slowly, music took shape. No one knew then that this quiet boy would become a legend. But for Eric, every hour spent practicing was a step away from the feeling of abandonment. A way to take control of his life, not through words, but through sound. That guitar wasn't just an instrument. It was a friend, a dream, a sanctuary. It didn't bring him fame overnight, but it gave him something more important, a voice, an identity, and a path forward. He learned to turn pain into rhythm, to turn loss into melody. And from that moment on, music became his destiny. In 1963, at just 18 years old, Eric Clapton stepped out of the quiet countryside of Surrey and into the world of music, his legs unsteady, but his heart on fire. He joined the Yardbirds, a young band searching for a breakthrough. Eric brought them something raw, something wild, the sound of the blues. A music that wasn't just played with the hands, but with the soul. They performed in crowded pubs, thick with cigarette smoke and drunken laughter. But Eric didn't care. He stood still behind his guitar, closed his eyes, and let his fingers tell his story through every solo. To him, that was the purest truth. Then, the band changed direction, toward pop. Brighter, catchier, easier to sell. Eric walked away. He quietly packed his guitar and left the room without looking back, determined to keep the blues alive in his heart. No scandal, no anger, just an artist unwilling to trade his dream for cheap fame. In 1965, he joined John Mayall and the Blues Breakers, and for the first time, his name began to resonate. The album Blues Breakers with Eric Clapton was released, and suddenly, the walls of London were covered in graffiti. Clapton is God. It wasn't a joke. With his Fender Les Paul, he played like his life hung on every note. He didn't just play the guitar, he lived inside it. Every long sustain, every riff was a wound laid bare, cutting straight into the hearts of listeners. In 1966, alongside Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker, he formed Cream, Britain's first true power trio. They shook the music world to its core. Sunshine of Your Love, White Room, Crossroads. Each song was a bullet fired straight into the audience's mind. Clapton, silent but fierce, became the guiding force of a new blues rock generation. He once said that playing live with Cream felt like going into battle. His guitar was his weapon, his only way to survive. America went crazy. Their tours sold out instantly. But behind the blinding stage lights, the pressure became unbearable. Drugs crept into the dressing rooms, into the studios, and slowly, into Eric himself, quietly but surely. In 1970, he created his masterpiece, Layla, with Derek and the Dominoes, a heartbreaking love song about his unrequited love for Pattie Boyd, the wife of George Harrison. Teaming up with Duane Allman, Clapton poured his entire soul into the song, leaving an unforgettable mark on music history. But as Layla played across the world, Eric collapsed into darkness. Heroin became his escape, a substitute for a love that was never his. Then, silence. No albums, no guitar, no music. Eric disappeared from the stage and locked himself away in his house in Surrey. Isolated, haunted, battling demons no one else could see. Days passed in complete quiet, and music, the one thing that once kept him alive, became nothing more than a distant memory. It wasn't until 1974, thanks to the intervention of his friend Pete Townsend, that he finally emerged from the shadows. His album 461, Ocean Boulevard, marked his comeback, and I Shot the Sheriff brought him back to the top. He was no longer the rebellious young man of the 60s. Clapton had matured, calmer, deeper, and stronger. His journey, from smoky pubs to grand stages, from fame to rock bottom, and back again, proves that Eric Clapton is more than just an artist. He is a warrior, a man who faced life through music and survived it. At 80 years old, Eric Clapton is not just a music legend. He is the embodiment of luxury, class, and style. Every note he has played has earned him both reverence and a fortune that would leave anyone in awe. Net worth. As of 2025, Eric Clapton's net worth is estimated to be around $450 million. This staggering figure comes not only from album sales and tours but also from strategic investments and his impeccable taste. Eric Clapton has not only conquered the world through music but has also built a real estate empire where every home is a masterpiece, reflecting his artistic soul and refined aesthetic. From historic mansions to modern villas, step into the world of a living legend, where luxury and inspiration intertwine. Mediterranean Villa in Provence, France. Nestled among the endless lavender fields of Provence, this $20 million Mediterranean dream is a property that even the wealthiest would admire. Built from white limestone sourced from the Alps, the villa features a striking red-tiled roof under the southern French sun. Inside, the interior is a seamless blend of classical grandeur and opulence. Fresco-painted high ceilings by Italian artisans, Carrara marble floors cool underfoot, and a wine cellar storing up to 5,000 bottles, ranging from rare Chateau Margaux to Clapton's own Provence-made wine from his 10-acre private vineyard. The main living room opens onto a terrace paved with rare Moroccan stones, where a 24K gold fountain softly gurgles amidst birdsong. One of its most unique features is an outdoor theater with a massive curved screen, where Clapton often revisits his own concerts under the stars, sipping wine from Baccarat crystal glasses. The estate also boasts a heated guitar-shaped swimming pool, its floor inlaid with pearl notes, a unique design he calls a symphony underwater. This is where he finds peace, but also where the sheer extravagance makes even heaven seem envious. Penthouse in Ohio, USA. Overlooking Lake Erie, Clapton owns a $25 million modern penthouse, an investment he once joked was more expensive than a world tour. Situated atop a 40-story skyscraper, his penthouse offers 360-degree panoramic views of the shimmering waters and city skyline. Designed by world-class architects, it features floor-to-ceiling bulletproof glass walls, reflecting light like a giant diamond. The centerpiece is a living museum, legendary guitars like Blackie displayed in climate-controlled glass cases, alongside an art collection worth tens of millions, from Picasso paintings to Rodin's gold sculptures. A 33-foot ebony and tiger's eye bar serves as Clapton's personal blues-inspired cocktail station, while a $500,000 Bowers & Wilkins sound system plays his rarest recordings. The penthouse's rooftop terrace boasts a massive hot tub surrounded by automated outdoor fireplaces, where he has hosted private parties with Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder. Below, a private elevator descends to an underground garage housing his Ferrari collection, from the classic 250 GTO to the custom-built SP12EC. This is not just a residence, it is an eternal symbol of success. Villa in Madeira, Portugal. Most recently, Clapton spent $30 million on what he calls his final paradise on the island of Madeira. Perched on a cliffside, the villa is built from black volcanic rock, with a glass ceiling offering an uninterrupted view of the moon. The interior is a symphony of luxury: white crocodile leather armchairs, a 200-year-old rosewood dining table, and Swarovski crystal chandeliers dazzling like a falling star. The 37-acre estate features a private vineyard and a 65-foot waterfall, cascading into a jade-green saltwater pool. Clapton converted the top floor into a meditation room with ocean views, where he sits for hours with his acoustic guitar, letting the waves compose his next melody. The property also includes a private marina, where his 157-foot, $9 million super yacht, Va Bene, awaits, ready for luxurious sea voyages. From Surrey to Madeira, each of Clapton's homes is not just a residence. They are palaces of music, art, and survival. They tell the story of a man who turned dreams into reality and lived a life that even the highest notes could barely reach. Car collection. Beyond his breathtaking real estate, Clapton is also the master of speed, with a car collection valued between $50 million and $100 million. These are not just cars. They are moving masterpieces, each telling a story of passion, power, and unparalleled sophistication. Ferrari SP12EC. A one-of-a-kind Ferrari, custom-built for Clapton for over $5 million, as a tribute to his youth dream car, the 512BB. Its fiery red carbon fiber body, hand-dyed white shark leather interior, and 18K rose gold dashboard inlays gleam like stage lights. The roar of its engine is a guitar solo in motion, echoing through the Surrey countryside. Clapton once said that driving the SP12EC feels like holding his favorite guitar. Nothing compares. Ferrari 250 GT Lusso. A $4 million collector's gem, acquired after years of negotiation with an Italian collector. Its silver gray finish gleams like moonlight on stage. Its walnut wood steering wheel crafted by Maranello's finest artisans. Clapton installed a hidden Bose sound system, ensuring that every ride along the coast is accompanied by Layla, like an eternal soundtrack of his life. Porsche 911 Turbo. A $2 million beast, embodying Clapton's rebellious days. Its jet black paint, roaring turbo engine, and gold-stitched leather seats capture the spirit of Cream's wild years. He modified it with Swarovski crystal headlights and an air suspension system, fusing classic rock with the future. This is the car of sleepless nights and endless dreams. Chevrolet Fleetmaster 1948. A $1.5 million nostalgia machine, restored by Clapton as a symbol of his journey from nothing to greatness. Its ivory and sapphire blue finish, plush crimson velvet seats, and 24K gold headlights make it a rolling throne. The mother-of-pearl inlays on the dashboard echo musical notes, and when he drives through London, you can almost hear Crossroads blending with the engine's hum. Clapton's garage is not just a parking space. It is an underground palace, with color-changing LED lights, scratch-proof glass floors, and a temperature-controlled environment akin to a recording studio. He once joked that if he weren't a musician, he would have been a billionaire just from cars. But with this collection, he is already the king of speed, turning every drive into an immortal melody. But even while living amidst glory and luxury, not every chapter of Clapton's life has been a perfect melody. There have been off-key notes, missteps, and scars that have left a permanent mark on his journey. In 1976, under the dim lights of a Birmingham stage, Clapton's voice slurred in drunkenness as he uttered words that left the crowd in stunned silence. He voiced support for far-right politician Enoch Powell, making deeply racist remarks. The incident shocked all of Britain and became the catalyst for the Rock Against Racism movement, a cultural wave against discrimination and injustice. To this day, many still recall that moment as a stain on his otherwise legendary career. Clapton later publicly apologized, admitting his ignorance, the influence of alcohol and drugs, and calling it the darkest period of his life. However, some critics remain skeptical of his sincerity, especially since he rarely addressed the event in later interviews. Some even argue that Clapton never truly faced the consequences, that his fame had shielded him from stronger backlash. Then, in 2020, Clapton once again stirred controversy when he collaborated with Van Morrison on the song Stand and Deliver, a protest against lockdowns and vaccine policies during the COVID-19 pandemic. While millions were struggling to survive, the lyrics were seen as reckless. On social media, the hashtag #CancelClapton exploded within hours, while others defended him, calling it an artist's right to free speech. Some theories circulated that Clapton had been influenced by extremist anti-vaccine views, though he denied this. There were even unconfirmed rumors that festival organizers considered removing him from lineups due to fear of audience backlash. Within the music community, fierce debates erupted. Should an artist be separated from their personal actions? Should a legend continue to be celebrated despite holding controversial views? Though his career did not collapse, the image of Clapton in the public eye was undeniably fractured and remains unrepaired. Clapton has also faced personal turmoil. In the 1970s, he had an affair with Pattie Boyd, while she was still married to his close friend, George Harrison. After Pattie and George divorced, she and Clapton became a couple. But their marriage was far from peaceful. Those years were filled with violence, addiction, and emotional wounds. On some nights, the sound of breaking glass and shouting echoed through their Surrey home, leaving behind fragments neither of them would ever fully speak about. Clapton once admitted, "I hurt the person I love the most, and I have to live with that forever." There are accounts suggesting Clapton would lose control, smashing instruments and household items in fits of rage with no clear trigger. Though Pattie Boyd never explicitly detailed the abuse, hints in her memoir and statements from close friends were enough to reveal the darkness that loomed over their marriage. There were also rumors that Clapton once attempted suicide on a freezing night in Surrey, overcome by guilt and loneliness, though he never officially confirmed it. Yet the story continues to resurface in behind-the-scenes accounts. Beyond that, he has struggled with mental health issues and spent time in rehabilitation centers, not just for substance abuse, but also for an inner emptiness that fame could never fill. Some close friends have revealed that Clapton often sank into deep depression after major tours, as if when the stage lights dimmed, they took his sense of purpose with them. For a period in the early 1980s, Clapton nearly cut off contact with everyone, living in isolation, disappearing from public view. Some articles at the time even speculated that he was burying his own career. But strangely enough, it was in that silence that Clapton began to rediscover music, not for performance, but as a means of healing. These moments remind us that Clapton is human, a man of extraordinary talent, yet full of flaws and weaknesses. He does not run from his darkness, but learns to live with it. With scars still visible, he stands up and keeps playing. And it was from those very scars that Clapton found the strength not only to rise for himself but also to reach out and lift others, turning pain into timeless art and compassion into an everlasting legacy. When looking back at Eric Clapton's career, one undeniable truth emerges. He is not just an artist, he is an icon. A man who transformed personal pain into eternal music and turned the stage lights into a guiding beacon for others. Clapton is the only musician in history to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 3 times, once with the Yardbirds, once with Cream, and once as a solo artist. This unprecedented honor is a testament to his far-reaching influence across multiple generations of music. He has won 18 Grammy Awards, including iconic victories with Tears in Heaven, a song written in the wake of his young son Connor's tragic death. Connor was only 4 years old when he fell from the 53rd floor of a New York building. Clapton spent months in silence, isolating himself in an empty room in Surrey, his hands trembling as he plucked the first notes on an acoustic guitar, as if every tear was falling onto the strings. Tears in Heaven is not just a tender ballad. It is the whisper of a grieving father, a prayer that has touched the hearts of millions around the world. To date, Eric Clapton has performed over 3,000 concerts in nearly 60 countries, from legendary venues like the Royal Albert Hall and Madison Square Garden to deeply moving outdoor performances in Japan, South America, and Africa. No matter where he plays, his music carries a sense of intimacy and sincerity, like an old friend sharing the story of his life. In 1998, Clapton founded the Crossroads Center in Antigua, a rehabilitation center dedicated to addiction recovery, helping thousands reclaim their lives. From his own darkest days of heroin addiction, he built this place, not just as a facility, but as a flame of hope he ignited from his own ashes. This is not merely a charity, it is a part of his life, a promise that no one has to fight their darkness alone. Beyond that, he established the Crossroads Guitar Festival, a stage where the world's greatest musicians come together with him. Tens of thousands stand under the stage lights as legends like B.B. King, Carlos Santana, Jeff Beck, John Mayer, and Gary Clark Jr. join Clapton, turning each performance into a symphony of generosity. Through ticket sales, guitar auctions, and rare memorabilia, he has quietly but relentlessly donated tens of millions of dollars to communities, giving not for recognition, but because it is simply who he is. He once said, "If I can use my music to help others overcome what I once endured, then perhaps all the pain I have carried was not in vain." Clapton's life is not just a symphony of timeless songs. It is a journey of hope. He did not just build a career, he built bridges. He did not just save himself, he extended a hand to